Hello and welcome everyone. My name is José Alvillar, Statewide Director of Youth Programs at Unidos, Minnesota. We are here live with Susana de León, who I'll let do a quick introduction in a second. Here to answer any questions and talk about what's happening right now. But let me quickly pass it to Jefa Susana de León.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another week where we come together to talk a little bit about what's happening in areas of the law that you may be interested in knowing, or to talk about things that are happening around you that you have questions and that I may have the answer and I might not. So it is a pleasure to be with you, Jose, and hopefully I can answer any questions that come up.
Sounds good. Thank you again, Jefa. Yeah, I guess, just to quickly get started with today, I know that there's a lot of things happening in the world, happening here in Minnesota, and just wanted to get your thoughts on, like there's threats to students who have student visas, and want to hear from you, like, what are your thoughts? What can students be doing in this moment?
It is really unfortunate that uh, students who have not uh, done anything criminal, who have engaged in their education, in the opportunities that come with being in a university, with the current political climate, that these students are now in fear of having their status rescinded and having their visas canceled, because that is really a very, I would say, a harsh way to punish somebody for what they think, for what they believe in, and for engaging in the political life of their university and their community. So, with that, I first will say that sending really a lot of support and thoughts to the students who may be worrying at the moment and who might also be facing threats of deportation. As we know, the University of Minnesota has been the site of enforcement against international students, and hopefully, attorneys like myself can come and can help with that situation. With that being said, what we're seeing across the land, or the national landscape, is not only the fact that students are being punished because of their political ideas or their participation in student life, but also that there is sort of like a review underway of their applications and of what has happened with them while they have been here in the United States. So some of the explanations given to us by Marco Rubio are, to begin with, misleading. And the way in which Marco Rubio is explaining the work of the enforcement branch of the Department of Homeland Security, it's really, I think, mischaracterization. When someone says that a student is going to be punished because of their activities, but the student that they are particularly being asked about has not engaged in any activities, but rather, it's about the way they think, or something that they authored, that is really worrisome. It's worrisome because there is no due process of law. And we, as a nation, believe that there should be due process of law. With that being said, and how, even though how horrible it is, we also have to understand that visas, student visas, are something that's more fragile, and it is a status that can be revoked by the department, but we have never seen them being acted upon in this way, or with this aggression, or with this rhetoric. So unfortunately, when I hear the Marco Rubio talk about it in media, there's very little challenge to what he's saying. And so this puts us in a very difficult political moment where if you attack a guard, a police officer, and you cause severe injuries and you put hundreds of people's lives in peril, you can see maybe that you will be pardoned. But if you oppose genocide and if you are worried about children being bombed and medical staff being bombed and hospitals being razed and people be put in famine, as it is the situation in Gaza, then you are going to be treated like a criminal and you are going to be detained and maybe held in detention and perhaps deported, which will put your whole education in limbo and in peril. So, when we talk about political moments and community movements, it's important to know that as a community, this is the time when we have to be supporting and speaking out for the students who are being uh, targeted, particularly targeted for these actions. That's just one of the things that we're seeing this week with regard to the cooperation between the Department of Homeland Security, with regard to the stance that is being taken by this new administration, and with regard to looking into people's past very carefully. And sometimes, these are not major, I would say, infractions. And we would have never seen something like so, uh, I call it violent. And the way that it is being enforced, when a student is breaking her fast and you stop a student that is vulnerable, that is not armed, and you need 5, 6 agents to do it. Not only are we talking about a way to act that sends a threatening message, but also we should be asking ourselves, is this the way in which our resources should be used? We were told that the enforcement was going to take place in a certain way. And for people who believe that, this is not happening. What's happening is that there is a big mobilization of resources to go after students that are truly concerned. And we cannot ask people to put both their morals, their values aside so that they can get an education. People, are trying to get an education. They definitely respect and value their time here in the United States, and they chose to come here because of their desire to learn and to be in a global uh, place that brings a lot of ideas. And to that end, that's the university. We've always valued the place of exchange and the cultural things that happen when you're at a big institution. So my heart goes out to all these students, and I hope that you are getting the proper legal advice for your particular situation.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Efa. It's very spot on, right? People's rights are being attacked. Due process is not happening. I guess I have a follow up question. In this current moment, what can students with visas be doing or preparing? But before we go to that, I want to quickly introduce Emilia González Avalos, Executive Director of Unidos Minnesota. Emilia, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, Hefa, and hi, Jose, and hello, everyone. It's so great to be in a space and like we know that our community is going through a very hard time, and we hope that having these live emissions with like this live broadcast with the knowledge and experience and expertise of La Jefa Susana de León can also bring us out of isolation and continue to get grounded that our best protection is our power, and that we can still have the choice of organizing, we can still have the choice of protecting each other and supporting each other. And just very grateful for La Jefa and her generosity with her time to be with us and talk about this escalating, right? Because these things are escalating with visa revocations, student visa revocations, and with the announcement. I don't know if you guys already talked about this or if you saw this, but Marco Rubio in a press conference in Guyana was very blunt about his intentions about continuing to do this and like being this a mission. Like it's like a mission for him to like find all the lunatics and like quote unquote lunatics and like the pro terrorists through the listserv. So thank you for Jefa for providing with the insight and the right information for folks right now.
And I would like to, you know, place this information and this moment in particular to something that we saw that was a threatening stance that was coming out of the administration's, uh, Project 2025, which wanted to expand the powers or expand the federal government utilization of different crimes to go after people with immigration status, with no immigration status, and in different parts of this immigration. I would call it like a fluid line because there are citizens and then there's everybody else, right? But I want to make sure that you know that no one is exempt from the application of these new policies. Right now, we are seeing the very beginning, but the administration already had in mind the fact that they want to apply different federal statutes, and they have. They have applied them to people and called them basically people who are enemies and people who endanger national security. In Florida, they've been very clear that they want to criminalize any type of they call it harboring. But of course, that if I give a right to my best friend, I might be I get arrested for harboring or helping someone that's in the country without documents. So I want us to think about the 1930s, and I want us to think about what this government did to many Mexican Americans who were deported without any due process. I want us to think about the internment of Japanese citizens. I want us to think about times in which history has shown that governments can be very powerful to attack and to demonize the people that are seen as others. And in this case, right now, the others are people with immigrant status other than a citizen. But it will be not too far off where we will also see, if you are a person non grata for the administration, that your own citizenship status might become or might be called into questions. So, Emilia, you asked, like, what should I do if I'm a student? What are the steps I should be taking to take care of my situation? I would say immediately, number one, just go and talk to an attorney. There are many things that can come up. And one of the things that I see the administration is doing is, without any evidence that you were or were not active in any campus movement, then international students are being targeted without any evidence. So you should go and talk to an attorney about what your exposure is, what possible liability you have, so that you can make arrangements. You cannot ever just say, well, I am just going to never leave my dorm room again, because that's just not possible. So you need to engage with the situation, control what you can, because these are the things that you can control, and then make a plan and decide what it is that's best for your situation after you talk to an attorney. And besides that, I think another important matter is that you should know that any application that you submitted,
We lost La Jefa. We'll wait until La Jefa comes back. We lost her for a little bit, but she was at any application that you submitted. Y pues buenas tardes a todas las personas que nos están viendo en vivo en este momento. Vamos a traer también la información en español. Teníamos un plan hoy para pues también proveer el apoyo y la información a los estudiantes internacionales que ahorita están siendo pues buscados, ¿no? Que hay como una nueva fuerza de ley que está tratando de buscar más deportados entre la comunidad de visados estudiantiles. Hola, jefa, se nos había perdido.
Fíjate que fui a ver lo que había en el chat y en ese preciso instante perdí la conexión.
Oh, no, pero qué bueno que anda por acá otra vez de regreso.
Entonces, I was talking about,
Sí.
that you need to review any application that you have done in the past, make sure that all of the information is correct, and definitely, talk to an attorney. This week, there were a few other things that happened, and we are going to be, we're starting to see a lot more changes, and a lot more changes in power of what immigration might be able to do. And these are things that we still haven't seen or people haven't called us about. So, Emilia, what else have you seen this week?
You're unmute, Emilia.
I'm sorry. ¿Qué más hemos visto? What else have we seen? So we saw a DC judge. I don't know if it's the right name, but sort of creating more ample protection for Venezuelan TPS. So that's one of the things we saw. We also saw that there's evidence that shows that the wrong people were deported to El Salvador, and the government, the federal government, saying that there's nothing they can do about it. And there's also the progress of the budget. We're paying attention to what's happening with the budget right now, because one thing is to scale at mass deportation, but the other thing is, do they have the resources and the money to engage in mass deportation? And that's a budgetary item that is being moved with the Votorama and all the things that are happening right now. And also, more arrest for more visa student visas in places like Mankato.
Okay, well, I want to share with you a little bit, with regard to what we're seeing and what will be coming up.
Okay.
And so for now, we know that, and we have heard that the DHS and the IRS are trying to come to an agreement with regard to people with prior deportations that have submitted a federal return. What we're saying to people is if you haven't done your federal income taxes, it will be a good thing to have safe addresses, PO boxes, uh, for everything. Now I think that advice goes to everything and everyone.
Mhm.
Especially, we as attorneys routinely submit a background check for our clients. And so now we don't know what protections these requests will have in the future. So we see that, we routinely send your information to the FBI so that we can get your FBI information, or something called the Freedom of Information Act,
Mhm.
which allows us to get your full record of immigration. We sometimes take fingerprints and send them to the Office of Biometric Information to also get your information. Well, now, nationally, we will be using safe addresses to do these background checks because we don't want to have at some point in the future a cooperation and have this information being shared with the Department of Homeland Security, with the deportation and removal, ICE. We don't know what's going to happen with this information. So we want to make sure, and you want to make sure as you're listening, that if you're going to request any type of background check, use a safe address so that you get it, you don't put yourself in peril.
Mhm.
That is a big change. Um, there is a new policy also with regard to issuing notices to appear. So when you go to court, let's say that you do something like you're driving without a seatbelt and you get a citation, but you want to fight your citation, because whatever, maybe you did have your seatbelt and maybe at that moment it snapped or something and whatever. And so then you want to go to court or for any other reason that you may have court. In the past, people would just, go to court and take care of it. And what we're seeing is that uh, ICE is trying to look for those people who are going to court to try and arrest people either before they go to court or after they go to court. So we are trying to talk to a lot of criminal defense attorneys to tell them to try to resolve those issues or ask for a Zoom court, which is possible, and to find alternatives. I will tell you that what I have seen is not necessarily that ICE goes to the court, but for days before the court, they stake out the places where you might be, and then they actually take you into custody before you go to court. And usually, like I said before, this requires like a few people, a few vehicles, a lot of intelligence. And so think about all of the work that we did as a community to put firewalls in the publication of data when you give your information to the state, for instance. And so this is more important than ever because as I'm thinking about in the Freedom of Information Act or any other requests that we make for public records, that we also are giving information to the state voluntarily, that we also have our names and our addresses out there. Uh, for instance, this giving of information was a big concern during the driver's license campaign. And we were able to have firewalls, protections, and to set it up in a way that people could have a driver's license and feel safe. But that same protection does not apply to other records. And we know that records of court proceedings are public and your name will be there, and ICE is looking at the court proceedings to see if they get a hit of someone who has been previously deported or has, some type of record. And I want everyone to know, don't think like, oh, I'm safe because I'm a good person. And don't go into that. This is one of the dangers of thinking, oh, well, it's okay for the government to strip the protections and the constitutional protections and the right to due process of everyone else because I'm okay. And that's not the way it works because we're not okay. Each and every one of us is in danger of having the same uh, lack of protection applied to us. And like Emilia talked just recently. I asked, what have you seen this week? And she said, we saw that someone was deported, wrongfully deported. That is such a big, big case. Somebody who had already been before the immigration judge, somebody who an immigration judge decided that needed protection from deportation and granted protection, was now put back in the country where he was claiming the fear of return to. So think about it. Like I can think, oh, well, I'm a citizen or I'm a resident or I'm a good person or that's not going to happen to me. We don't know the big reach of this administration. But thankfully, here comes the good part. There are a lot of attorneys out there. There are a lot of advocates out there. There are national organizations out there looking to challenge this application of law in this indiscriminate way. So before I go on to the continuing like bad things that we see this week, I want to talk about the good things we see this week. Emilia, you touched on it. A judge ordered the administration not to terminate TPS for the Venezuela people that got TPS in 2023. The judge, the decision is so well written. It's a joy to read it. Talked about how the Venezuelan people have contributed billions of dollars to the economy, how the employment rate for the Venezuelan community is like 86%, how the taxes that they have paid, the involvement in community life, like all these positive and beautiful things, and that the administration cannot decide to slander a whole country, a whole group of people, and call them criminals when the reality, the numbers, and everything we know is completely the opposite. So that was beautiful. And so, yay to the judge. We have this block. We don't know for how long, and we don't know what the there's definitely going to be an appeal, and the spin of it in the media is going to be something calling out to the judge and calling the judge names and saying horrible things about the judges that are, in fact, courageous enough to follow the law. Follow the law. So that's a good thing. Um, Another thing that I think that we should all be happy about, very, very happy I am. I don't know, Emilia, if you heard that the administration wanted us to register and created a registry. And
Mhm.
if you were around in the United States in 2001, there was a registry of Muslim people called NSEERS. And as attorneys, and we talked about this last week, that we could not, in good faith, as attorneys, tell anyone to register for this new registry. Because as attorneys, we always say to you, don't say anything, remain silent. la 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 la, and then we cannot then turn around and say, oh yeah, give the government all of your information and tell them everything about you. It just doesn't go well with our ethics and our representation. And this is also something that we cannot do openly, because I don't know your life, Emilia. I don't know what I would say to you. I don't know your life, Jose. I would have to really look at your life to try and tell you what I see, but I would never tell you to register, because that's a personal decision. That is something that you have to decide, taking into account the risks and the possibilities of eventually gaining status. Amelia, I could never tell you to register or to tell people to register because it's very personal. But ta ta ta, there's a lawsuit challenging this registration program. And so right now, the one thing I can tell you is do not register. And we will wait to see what happens with the lawsuit. And for at least now, we don't want people to register. We want you to wait until at least after April 11th to see what updates we have from the lawsuit. Another excellent news that we have is that the administration has been using this Enemies Act for the deportations of the people and the flights to El Salvador. Well, there's another lawsuit that is challenging the use of the Enemies Act. And as we move on with enforcement, there will also be responses from the legal community. There was another thing that happened that was kind of like, this is not good. And it's definitely not good, but we're fighting it. That we as attorneys were also being targeted. And we as attorneys were being told that the cases that we're filing are frivolous and a waste of money to the government. And that is such an attack on the right of a person, not only to have the best representation of all the available law, but as attorneys, we have an obligation, a professional and ethical obligation to be your representative and to work for you in the best way possible to our capacity. So that is bad news, but it is good news that there is a lot of organizing around it, that the ABA put out a statement, the American Bar Association, and that recently, the Minnesota Bar Association is also considering one. And then we have our own bar, which is the American Immigration Lawyers Association. So on our end, as attorneys, we are doing what we can, and we're fighting locally or nationally to preserve against the rule of law, to preserve that people have rights, to preserve your constitutional rights, and to encourage people to exercise their constitutional rights. And I always tell you that the Constitution wasn't written for citizens of the United States. The Constitution applies to every single one of us in the United States. So I like everyone to remember that. Anyway, enough about me. Let's go back to you. I give it to you for a response or for anything that we want to touch on. I know there were other questions. I
Mhm.
cannot go into the chat because if I go to the chat, I lose you. So maybe you want to talk about what's on. I see there's a question in
Yeah,
the chat.
yeah. There's a question that we have. The question is: are there any precautions that people with pending asylum cases should take?
This new policy memorandum that came out with regard to issuing notices to appear and I was going to say that a notice to appear is your, uh, they're telling you that you have to go to court. And in that notice to appear, they are also writing why do you have to go to court, to immigration court. But if you already have your asylum case pending, if you've already submitted your asylum case, then your case should proceed. Then you should be able to have a hearing and you should be able to present your case. And the only thing that I would recommend to you as an asylum seeker, first of all, continue to heal, continue to look for the help that you need to overcome all of the pain that brought you here, and continue to look for support in the community to, to face everything that's coming to you. Honestly, asylum is really, really difficult. And people who are going through that process are facing tremendous obstacles. So first of all, gather yourselves and say, oh, I need therapy. Where can I get it? There are a lot of places in the community that can offer you support with therapy, or you think like I might need help with other things in my life. There are also organizations out there that can help you. And secondly, continue to gather your evidence. Continue to stay on top of your case. Do not miss any appointments. You can create an online account and enter your case receipt number to check it often. If you don't want to create an online account, the government already knows who you are, so don't worry about that. They already know who you are, where you live. But you can also oftentimes just check your case online. And like anyone else, like all of us, we should remain law abiding. All of us, not just people with asylum, right? And I just, this week, it was very revealing. I met with someone who told me that their car had a light out and they got pulled over and they were very worried. But the police in St. Paul just told them, hey, your light's out, get it fixed so that you won't get an accident. Remember that there are also good interactions out there, and that check your car for malfunctions, for your lights, for the light that goes over your plate, uh, and make sure that you're not speeding and doing other things that you shouldn't do anyway, no matter who you are. None of us should be doing things like driving drunk or getting into fights or anything like that. We already know that. All of us know that. But now more than ever, you should remember, count to 10, look at around, check your car, make sure everything is working. Another sad part is that we have driver's licenses for all, but some people are not able to pass the test. So let's publicize a little more the help that we have in our own languages so that people can pass the test. Um, Locally, also, they've just been given a citation. And I say that at least what I've heard in the last 2 weeks, there is no, other than my own family that got a ticket for no seatbelt, there's mostly been, warnings. Make sure you fix the light, or make sure you put your seatbelt on, or something like that. So I think for everyone with asylum, if you have it already filed, you should be fine. These new policies don't apply to you because you've already been fingerprinted. They already know who you are, and your process will continue. They do have the right at any point to try and bring you to proceedings. So make sure that you follow up with everything. The other thing I say is that there are people who think they have asylum because they enter with CBP1, but TBP1, an entry with CBP1 is not the same as filing your asylum. So make sure that you look through your paperwork, and if you have parole under CBP1, look at your paperwork and make sure that you did file your asylum petition. Asegúrese que sometió su petición de asilo. Mucha gente piensa que tener CBP1 es lo suficiente para pedir asilo, y eso es solamente la entrada. Necesitamos todavía someter la forma y dependiendo, ¿verdad? Como qué evidencia tiene, debe de someterla también. Una forma para el juez con la evidencia, una copia para el fiscal y una copia para sí mismo. Y pregunte en la corte para que pueda usted mandar otra copia para que lo registre con el servicio de migración. So just a reminder, once you do your asylum application, you have to give one copy to the judge. Even if you don't have court, you can just take it and, give it at the window. One copy for the Office of Chief Counsel, which are the prosecutors, and they have an office right there in the same building here in Fort Snelling. A copy for yourself, and then ask at the court for a little. They give you instructions. There's a sheet that has instructions on how to mail it out, so that you can let USCIS know that you have an asylum application, because they will be the ones to give you a fingerprint appointment. And so that's what I will say about asylum. Is that an answer, or do we have any more questions with regard to that?
So this is Allison. She say thank you. So I guess so. My guess is you did a great job, because you are like a wholesome attorney that not only are looking to tell her the things that they need to do on paper, but also what to do with the body and with the life when we have to withstand an incredible amount of pressure. So that speaks of the empathetic and amazing person and attorney you are, Jefa. And this is why we're very happy to have you in this hour every Thursday. And these are usually shows in Spanish. This is a broadcast in Spanish, but we know that there's visa students and refugees and immigrants from a lot of places, and we don't know all the languages. Like we are translating our guide, and it's already translated. So our guide is out, Jefa, and it's going to be in all the stands with the women's press. So many thousands of copies. And we're going to deliver some in your office for people that want to take them. And people can pick them up at Mercado Central. If you want to know your rights guide, you can pick it up at Mercado Central starting next week. But in any case, we don't speak Creole, Haitian Creole. We don't speak Ukrainian. We don't speak some of these languages, but we're translating the guide so people can have more information in the language of birth, or the language they're comfortable with. But in the meantime, we are doing this one in English as a way to reach out to more people. So please feel free to copy through the link and deploy it, send it to your friends. And they can email us with questions too, or they can send us a message in the inbox so that we can continue to answer questions, because La Jefa will be with us every Thursday from 6 to 7. And like we're so glad that not only she is like you people should know, she's an incredible and experienced attorney, but she's also in the movement with us. You wrote the protections for the driver's licenses, and you wrote the separation ordinances in the city of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And like you helped us with the building of the Minnesota Care expansion and the language too, so that, we were complying with FERPA and HIPAA and all these different data protection things. So like people should know, La Jefa, we're able to do, and Jose and I are immigrants. And we can do a lot of the organizing we do because la jefa se pone los lentes atrás porque el barrio nos respalda. La jefa has our back. So we have, is there anything do you want to add or any question, Jose? We have like 15 more minutes today.
I have some other at the end. I want to do a little like 4 more points. Okay, go
Great.
ahead, Jose.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess, just, speaking to everything that's going on politically, I think just want to quickly share that, as an organization, we're also like, yes, we're doing Know Your Rights trainings. Yes, we're doing rapid response. But I would also say like that the bread and butter of what we do is this organizing, because now more than ever, we're going to need each other, regardless of where we come from, regardless of what we look like, and regardless of the language that we speak. So, if you're living in Minnesota, if you're living in the metro, reach out to one of our organizers, reach out to Unidos Minnesota, and get plugged in, get connected. We're doing a lot of these trainings. We're trying to make sure that we mitigate a lot of what's happening, and more than anything, that we build power.
And that's, I think, the biggest, I hope, the biggest message we get out today. We are building power. We are doing everything that's in our hand to remedy the situation. We have plans. We are asking everyone who's listening to make a plan and to face what's coming with poise and a plan. It's good for us to look into the future and say, how can we prevent more of this fallout and more of this pain? And also, how do we organize to change the law, to change the responses to the law, and to change the power that we have? How do we relate to legal challenges? And to that, I want to give you a few other pointers. Let's start with a common question that has come this week. Can I travel? A lot of people want to know if they can travel. I would say that I have heard nothing but good things from people with DACA that had advanced parole. And sometimes there are some questions because they have to check computers, but overall the feeling is that you are able to use your advanced parole, and that mostly you will not have an issue as long as you have your DACA, as long as you did your advanced parole. And I tell people that if they have in the past any type of arrest, then do not travel. Come and see me. Call me. Well, the ones listening, you don't have to call me. You could call your attorney. Okay? But for my clients, I tell them, give me a call. Let's talk about it. And then what I do is I look through everything that we ever did. I look through filings of, first DACA, second DACA, third DACA. I look at everything. And then I run your name. And then if we are fine, then you should be able to travel. I do not recommend that you travel if you have any arrest in your background and you have not checked with an attorney, because that might be a problem. And many, many, many crimes can make you deportable, and many crimes can make you inadmissible. But it is a very complicated formula to apply. You have to speak with someone who knows the law. You cannot just say, oh, my case is the same as my brother's case. So my brother traveled, so I'm going to travel too. No, nobody's case is the same as anybody else's case. You are not the same person. Life is different. And you don't know everything about your brother. You don't know. I mean, I don't know everything. I have to, sometimes I don't even know everything about my clients. Sometimes later they say, "Oh, I forgot to tell you this." It's very traumatic when you are in immigration things. And then, you get nervous and sometimes you forget. So check your background, check with an attorney, and make sure that you're good to go. This week, we have seen legal permanent residents detained because of some crime that they unfortunately had and because of lack of advice. Then after that, there's a whole process. Maybe this is the way to relate to it. Do you all remember that a student was arrested and it turned out that that student was not a student, but rather he is a legal permanent resident?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So I also know that you have heard Marco Rubio said, I will cancel or I have canceled his permanent residency.
Mhm.
For all the permanent residents out there, only an immigration judge can do that. Marco Rubio cannot do that. He cannot say, I will cancel your legal permanent residency. There is a process, there is due process. And this is why and we say all the time, ask for an attorney, ask to talk to the judge, because maybe an official can say something that's not necessarily correct. I will not say that officials lie. I will not say that. But sometimes they do not know the law themselves very well. So they think they know and they will say something to you. And this has always happened. Always happened. Always, always, always. People used to tell me, oh, but the officer said this and that and that and that. And I would say, well, the officer doesn't know. They're not attorneys. They try to do their job, they try to do the best, but that doesn't mean that they know all of the law. And so I tell you, if you're a legal permanent resident and you have anything and you pass that it's either an arrest or maybe you're worried because, like we said before, maybe sometimes when you were doing your application, you forgot to write something down, talk to your attorney. But little things like, oh, I forgot a parking ticket, those are not going to be a problem. But talk to your attorney. But if you say, oh, I forgot that in 1993 I was arrested for a crime, then talk to your attorney. Okay? It's very, very important. Protect yourselves. Again, we are not here to tell you that you're helpless. You are not helpless. You are coming from a community that knows how to organize. You come from an abundant and rich community with a lot of resources, and you should go out there and do what you can. We say in Spanish, take the bull by the horns, agarra el toro por los cuernos, and deal with it now. And don't be afraid of calling an attorney. It is a good investment for your future. So I think those are my advice for today. As always, is attorneys know best, but definitely know that you have rights. You always have rights, and especially do not sign anything. Ask to speak to a judge, and then the judges can look at your case. And I really hope that you take care of yourself this week. Take a deep breath and try your best at getting some answers for your individual case. Thank you, Emilia. Thank you, Jose. I hope one day I actually get to see you in person. And pa'lante, y para atrás ni para coger impulso.
para adelante todos. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much, Jefa. We're gonna take this hour and send it to our email list so that people that predominantly speak English can share it with folks. But in the meantime, people, please share it. We know that it is that folks want to have this in Espanol también, and we will continue to have this in Spanish every week. But we gotta share a little bit of La Jefa once in a while with English speaking people. But thank you so much, Jefa. Thank you so much, Jose. When is your next training? How can people get plugged in, Jose?
We have a Know Your Rights training coming up next weekend, actually, April 12th at Academia Cesar Chavez at noon. So if you're looking to get connected with Unidos Minnesota, get connected to the work that we're doing, that training will be in Spanish, but we have a bunch more that are coming up. We're in the process of planning one at the University of Minnesota, especially with everything that's been happening as well. That one will be in English, and we'll be sharing that through our social media accounts. So definitely follow us, follow the work that we're doing, be a member of Unidos Minnesota, and just support the work that we're doing.
Excellent.
I want to say that at the University of Minnesota, we also have great colleagues.
Yes.
And that there is an international student, legal services. So for students who are listening to us, who are attending the university or even go there, even if you're not at the U, but so that you can get guidance. Many times my law firm works with the University of Minnesota to answer questions or to sometimes, try to get some assistance. But we have great colleagues over there in different places, not just the international students, but at the Center for New Americans, at the law school, there is a lot of help out there.
Yeah, maybe we should invite Mahmoud next time from the Center of New Americans, so that or Linus too, so that they
Yes.
can the three of you can share what are also the resources, the research, and the work that they're doing. Yes, Mahmoud, un saludo, shout out to Mahmoud over at the Center for New Americans, and Linus, Professor Linus Shang, todos los compas de la jefa, right? And we just saw that, what's his name? Ben Casper is now back at the ACLU.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
We go back like 30 plus years, right? With all of these wonderful people. And, we have a great legal bar here.
Yeah.
So let's continue to build on that and continue to encourage people to seek help.
Yes. Folks, we're not alone. Attorneys have a very important role. And their battleground is in the court and making sure that we have ample space in our due process and our constitutional rights so that we can continue to build the power that we need to change the conditions. So it's a different terrain, the struggle for the attorneys, but it's indeed an important terrain. And then our terrain as people is to continue to relate, to continue to build power together, to build a multiracial democracy. Because now I can say this, well, maybe I won't say this because I should watch what I say. Como dice la jefa, el pez por su boca muere. So, I'm not gonna say it. So I'm not gonna say it. But we make this country, this country is what we make of it. And if we allow the white supremacists and the xenophobics to take the space, they will take the space and they will make it that. But if we gain the terrain, if we contest the power and we make it a multiracial democracy that we want it to be, then it will be that. So let's continue to work together. We're very grateful for La Jefa. Thank you, Jose, and un saludo a Luis that should be on vacation. So if he's watching this, you should go on vacation. And Sara, who is taking a little bit of rest because she hasn't felt good this week. So un abrazo, Sara, y a Luis, and everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Jefa. And we'll see you next Thursday. Thank you, Jose, for handling the technology.
No worries.
Bye.
Bye-bye.